In this video, I'm going to teach you a technique that will help you increase your shop efficiency, will help you take better care of your customers, will reduce your comebacks, and help your technicians do a much better job on the work that they have in front of them. Whenever I teach this technique, and the technique is called getting a repair authorization, service advisors try it and they instantly the next day will come back and go, man, I wish I had been doing that forever. It's the easiest thing to do and it really, really works. And I can't say it's magic because it's not magic, but it is one of those techniques that once you try it and you do it a couple times, you're going to wish that you had learned it a long time ago, because it's really easy and it really, really makes your life easier and helps the technicians do a much better job working on the cars. So the basics of the technique is we have this thing in our head about diagnosing a customer's car when they come in. So if a customer comes in and they have a runnability issue on their car, we have this thing in our head that we want to diagnose that, and then we want to call them and tell them what's wrong with the car. And that is completely in our head. The customer has come in and they want their car fixed. And we're doing everything but fixing their car. We're creating a bunch of inefficient steps to get their car fixed. And so what we do usually is we will tell the customer, okay, it's $100 for diagnosis. Customer will leave the car. Technician will get the car, will take it into the shop, rack it, drive it, diagnose it. Maybe it takes them an hour, maybe it takes them an hour and a half, whatever it is. And then they'll pull the car out, they'll come back to you and say, this is what's wrong with the car. You'll call the customer, technician will get on another car, you'll tell the customer what the car needs, they'll approve the work, you'll give the RO back to the technician, he'll finish the car he's on, then he'll either pull it back in that day or the next day, and then he'll finish the work on the car. Terribly, terribly inefficient. Customer came in to get a runnability issue fixed. They didn't come in to buy a diagnosis, but what we present them up front is diagnosis. So what a repair authorization is getting enough money up front to try to fix the car. So if a customer comes in for a runnability issue, it may take an hour, 2 hours to diagnose that, and we may need to put some parts on the car and try some different things. So you want to start a customer at $500 or $600 up front. And the way that you present it to the customer is, Mr. Smith, we're going to check out why your car is stalling or whatever the issue is that they came in for, and I'm going to give myself $500 to work with. If it's less, it's less. If it's more, I'm going to call you. And then a lot of times at that point, the customer will say, no, just, if it's more than $1,000, call me, but I want the car fixed. And sometimes, and this is a very, very good thing, and it's something I would want to know up front before my technician invested 2 hours repairing a car that I only have an hour of authorization for diagnosis on, he'll say, no, I'm going to sell the car, I don't want to spend any money on the car. And then you tell the customer, well, it may take an hour, it may take 2 hours, but you got to give me something to work with here. Sometimes we need to put an O2 sensor on the car and then recheck it. Sometimes it's not just one thing, it's a couple things. How long, Mr. Customer, have you been driving the car this way? How long have you had this issue? And the customer will say, well, for 6 months. Well, there's a possibility that it's not just one thing, it could be a couple things, and we need the money to work with to really get to the bottom of it. I don't want to fix one thing, have you leave here and still have the runnability issue. We want to fix it right. So you want to get money up front, a repair authorization to work with. This is where your skills as a service advisor come into play. Customer comes in for a runnability issue, you might put $500 on the repair order. You might put more depending on the brand. But a customer comes in for an AC repair, you might end up putting $1,000 on the repair order because you know with your specific brand in your cars that most of the time it's an evaporator when the AC isn't working, and we're going to need an evaporator. So you just say, and I want you to write this down in your workbook, Mr. Smith, I'm giving myself $1,000 to work with. So write that down in your workbook, Mr. Smith, I'm giving myself $1,000 to work with. And then if it's less, it's less. If it's more, I'll give you a call. And then the great thing about that is if it is less, you charge the customer less and you're a hero to the customer because, hey, Mr. Smith, it was just a switch. It was $100 and we fixed your AC. They left there thinking maybe they might spend $1,000 or more, and you're a hero because it was only $100. I'm in no way condoning that if you get $1,000, you charge the customer $1,000. That is not the mindset behind this. The mindset is the technician being efficient, not pulling a car in and out, having money to replace a hose and repressurize the system if it's a coolant leak, put on an O2 sensor and recheck if it's a check engine light, giving the technician something to work with so he's efficient. I'm also, you want to make sure your technician isn't dragging his feet just because you have that repair authorization, but that very rarely is the case. So that's repair authorization in a nutshell. You can be a huge hero with your customers, save them time, make your life easier, cut down on your phone calls dramatically, and get the cars done sooner and more efficiently.